Residents in Louisiana continue the cleanup process from the historic flooding that hit the state nearly 2 weeks ago. President Obama made his first trip to the region 10 days after the flooding started. The president told residents, "We will help you," and said politics should not get in the way of providing assistance to victims.
Sometimes, once the floodwaters pass, people's attention spans pass. This is not a one-off. This is not a photo op issue. This is how do you make sure that a month from now, 3 months from now, 6 months from now, people still are getting the help that they need. I need all Americans to stay focused on this.
All right. Well, Republican nominee Donald Trump toured the region 5 days ahead of the president and slammed the timing of the president's trip on Twitter, saying, quote, "President Obama should have gone to Louisiana days ago instead of golfing. Too little, too late." For more on the federal response to the flooding in Louisiana, let's bring in former FEMA Director Michael Brown. Good morning, Michael. Good to see you. What is the situation right now?
Well, I think the president was right in not going initially. It's a fairly nuanced political situation. The last thing you want to do is have the president, Air Force One, Secret Service, the entire entourage show up while you're in the response phase. But I think the president was wrong by not stepping off the golf course while he was on Martha's Vineyard and at least making a statement to the American public, telling the people of Louisiana that help is there, they're doing what they're supposed to do. And then politically, I think the president made a mistake by letting Donald Trump beat him there once the response phase was over and they were in recovery. So politically, I think he made a couple of mistakes. One, he should not have gone, and he didn't go at the right time, but he should have gotten off the golf course. But then once the response phase was gone and Trump showed up, Trump trumped him.
Fair enough. And this flooding is being compared, and the fallout from it is being compared to previous storms. Hurricane Katrina made landfall 11 years ago. This week, that storm was the single most catastrophic natural disaster that this country has ever seen, according to FEMA. Michael, how do you compare the federal response to Hurricane Katrina and the response to the current flooding that we are seeing in Louisiana?
Well, as I tweeted out before, I thought that what the state of Louisiana was doing in the response phase of this flooding was exactly what a state should be doing. They were coordinating. They had their mutual aid agreements in place. The Louisiana National Guard, Department of Wildlife, everybody was doing what they were supposed to do. So they had a unified command structure in place. That is exactly what governors should be doing in disasters. So compare that to Hurricane Katrina. We had a disaster in Hurricane Katrina because we couldn't get a unified command structure in place, and the mayor failed to evacuate the city. So while I never compare disasters, I will say this. Katrina had problems because of the command structure. In this case, you didn't have that. And I say touche to the state of Louisiana for it.
But, sir, you were in charge of the command structure as the head of FEMA back during Katrina, and I want you to compare how you think that event took place from a federal government response and how you think the federal government and Jay Johnson and others have been responding to it this time.
That's Julie Rogowski, Michael.
Sorry, yes.
You bet. Hi, Julie.
Hi,
well, they've been responding correctly, but here's the difference. In Hurricane Katrina, you had a mayor and a governor that failed to evacuate the city. And unless the president and myself had declared had in essence declared martial law and forced an evacuation of that city, that's the main difference. It's but for that evacuation failure of the mayor and the governor that causes a huge distinction.
Why didn't you do that?
That's why I don't think you can compare the two.
Why didn't you do that out of curiosity? Well, I mean, it's a national. Well, you know, you can mobilize the National Guard. You could evacuate people. People's lives were lost. You clearly saw, and you're clearly saying that lives were lost because of their actions. Why wouldn't you step in?
Well, hold on. I do want to stay on the story that is, and because we know that these people, there's devastation down there in Louisiana and Baton Rouge, and we know that FEMA has now approved more than $107 million in grants, Michael, to help survivors with temporary rental insurance, essential home repairs, serious disaster-related needs. We keep looking at the images coming out of there, a woman with her baby and a bottle, and that image sticks with me. How does someone like that get access to those grants and that money, and what is the time frame like? How soon do they see that money?
Well, let's be very precise about this, because there is federal aid that will come along, but there's a misconception that the federal aid is going to make these disaster victims whole, and it simply does not. It's temporary assistance. It doesn't rebuild homes. It doesn't make them right back to where they were. It's a stopgap measure.
I just worry about people being comfortable and that baby being cared for, and it's an unbelievable situation.
And that's where and we often forget about this, but that's where the NGOs, the non-government organizations, the Salvation Army, and all of these volunteer organizations, that's where they come into play, because they are absolutely critical to helping those people fill that gap between what government does and what isn't done.
Wow, I mean, we are just running a banner, $20 billion in damages to the homes down there in that region. It's going to be a long effort, a long cleanup effort.
Absolutely.
And all my best to the good people of Louisiana. Michael Brown, thank you.
You bet. Thank you.
All right.